Hey there! Before we start the podcast, I need you to put down that Wavebird and listen up.
I need money.
For a tenth of what the price of that wireless GameCube controller costs,
That should be like $5 if you got it off Shop Goodwill.
you can support me here at the podcast of Two Consoles Too Late.
I need to buy more games.
Your support gets bonus content like additional episodes, Discord server access, typewriter manifestos, and personal shoutouts on the airwaves.
I actually have a typewriter.
Vote on Patreon polls to see what video game I talk about next.
Nothing on Atari 2600.
So go to patreon.com/2consoles2late because what the world needs is more stick it!
Hi, everybody.
Maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
And constant crises have shaken the entire world and have threatened in each case to bring on the gigantic conflict, which is today, unhappily, a fact.
9 programmable weapons buttons. Customizable feedback software. Don't just buy a new video game. Make one.
He doesn't have a PlayStation 5.
That's because he's Two Consoles Too Late.
So a shadow drop is when a video game is released the same day that it is announced, and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion got shadow dropped from Bethesda Studios. So I decided to finally sit down and play this wonderful open world RPG, not the remaster, mind you. I'm playing the original 20-year-old RPG, and not just any version, I'm playing the PS3 version. So I'm going to talk all about my week-long experience trying to play this game, because I never gave this game its due. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. All right, let me set the stage here on my last week or so. So Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion got shadow dropped by Bethesda Studios. It's been remastered in Unreal Engine 5, and it looks wonderful compared to the original, as it should. So all this got me curious. And I decided, okay, I'll try playing Oblivion again, see what all the hubbub's about. That so many people have bought this game in, the last, almost been 2 weeks. Now, I am playing the original Oblivion on PS3. And I found out that that is the absolute worst version of this game that you could ever play. The frame rate sucks. It doesn't have all the full DLC. I'll talk about that because I was trying to find some mage's house or something, and it just wasn't in the PS3 version. So I completely lost a week. And then as I'm playing the game, I'm thinking, well, how am I going to do a podcast about this? Because to beat the game takes hours. I mean, not just like 6 hours, I think it's probably 20, 30, 40 hours, whatever it is. Now, I probably put 20, 30, 40 hours into the game, but not on the main quest. I was just walking around the world of Cyrodiil, the country that Oblivion takes place in. And I've been watching a lot of content on the YouTube, learning about the Elder Scrolls universe, because this is Elder Scrolls 4, so there were 3 games that came before this. So I looked at that. It's, Arena, Daggerfall, and Morrowind. And apparently the first 2 are extremely difficult. They came out on the PC starting in the 90s. And Morrowind was on the original Xbox and PC. So Elder Scrolls 4, I think, is kind of the game that actually sort of broke out and gained a larger success, as it were. So anyway, let's dive into this. My limited experience with Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and my impressions therein. All right, so a little history on Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and I'm just going to say Oblivion from now on. But in the back of my mind, when I say Oblivion, I'm thinking of the movie with Tom Cruise. That is a wonderful sci-fi adventure, but no. We are talking about the RPG from Bethesda. So Oblivion was released March 20th, 2006, 4/20. And 19 years ago, this game sold over 3 million copies across multiple platforms, which is very good. But to put that in perspective, since Oblivion was shadow dropped and remastered, it has sold 4 million copies in a week. So it outsold the original by 1 million copies in way less time. So you have new and old players coming to this game, which is of no surprise. There is no physical copy of the Oblivion remaster. And at the time of this podcast, I don't think Bethesda has any plans to make a physical copy. I'm really surprised that people still like physical media. I am in that camp. But as of now, I don't think there's any plan to release a physical copy. Now, if they did, my speculation is they would do some sort of like collector's edition and make it like $100. And I'm sure all the shelf collectors would go gaga for it. Anyway, so what is the story of Oblivion? Well, it's just your typical medieval hack and slash, whatever. The Emperor Uriel Septim VII is assassinated by a cult called Mythic Dawn. And there's something about a Prince of Darkness and unlocking these gates of Oblivion. I'm sorry, that's the best I can do for the story. I got as far as Kvatch, and Kvatch is a little town where some little Oblivion gate opens. These Oblivion gates are basically portals to hell, for those who don't know. They look like Sauron's eye from Lord of the Rings. It's a complete ripoff when you see them. But these Oblivion gates are these portals to hell. And other than the first Oblivion gate, I tried to close other gates, and it just got annoying. A lot of things about this game got annoying. Now, full disclosure, I have no way of playing the remaster, or do I have any desire to, okay? I don't have a modern console. I don't have a PS5, Xbox One, whatever. I don't have a modern gaming PC, okay? So I have no way to play the Oblivion remaster, and I can't talk about the remaster other than what I've seen on YouTube, and I don't want to talk about the remaster. I want to talk about the original from which this game came from. And once again, the only nostalgia I have is just buying it at a yard sale, and every once in a while just sort of picking it up and putting it down, picking it up, putting it down. But it finally took me, this remaster for me to sit down and do a full deep dive into Oblivion and give this game its proper due. I joked on the social medias that to improve the graphics, my remaster was I was just going to wear my glasses. Ha ha ha. But once again, I am playing the PS3 version, which I found out to be the worst version of the game. It's got a really bad frame rate. I mean, the graphics of Oblivion weren't great to begin with. It was kind of one of my beefs with the game when I played it. And it's got a very shitty frame rate, and it is very noticeable. And there's no DLC. Even if you get the Game of the Year edition of Oblivion for the PS3, you only get 2 of the DLC quests. And one of the DLC quests I wanted was called Frost Crag Spire. And basically it's this house way up in the mountains, and you kind of have to find it. It took me like an hour or two to find the location of where it would be. And then after 2 hours, I was like, where the hell is this house? And then I did a search on the interwebs and found out that the PS3 version doesn't have that DLC. So I was just walking around the mountains for absolutely no reason. Because I thought it would have been cool, like this cool house in the mountains. You can upgrade your magic or what have you. But no, not on the PS3. So I created an agent character who looked a lot like me. A little bit more mongoloid than I would have preferred. But the graphics, once again, are limited. And I decided to be thief-like, so I could, pickpocket people and do stealth kills and stuff like that. And I decided I wanted to be an archer, so I've become quite the marksman in Oblivion, I must say. But I am guilty of just, button mashing, just breaking out like a war axe or a mace or a one-handed weapon and just going to town on any enemies. I rarely use my shield. Once again, time and time again, I'm saying, okay, I don't want to play a game with melee combat, and here I am playing Oblivion, which is nothing but melee combat. So in the past week of playing Oblivion, what have I accomplished? Well, these are my quote-unquote accomplishments in Oblivion. I am now a level 8. I don't know how high the levels go. I'm guessing they go up pretty high, but I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong or something right that I'm only a level 8. I don't know any strategies to increase that level higher, and frankly, I don't care. Right now, I'm doing some fetch quest for gold. There's some collector in the main city. His name is... I forget his name. It's like Umbacano or something like that. I just call him Umberto Eco after the author. In The Name of the Rose, if anyone knows that movie or book. Anyway, so this guy gives you a quest that he wants these statues, and you have to go to these elven ruins and collect 10 of these statues. And so far, I think I've gotten 4 of them. And every time you get one of these statues, he gives you 500 gold, which I have been collecting gold because this is a dungeon crawler. And every dungeon you go into, there's chests everywhere, and you just grab the gold, and after a while, your gold starts to amass. So I think I'm up to like 4,000 gold, but there's really nothing that I thought, oh man, I really want to buy this. It's just, I'm just looting. I'm just going to the dungeons and the ruins, and I'm grabbing the gold and whatever weapons and spells I find, and then going back to some shop and selling them to some guy, and just back and forth. I mean, that's all I'm doing. So I'm just doing these dungeon crawls, looting for gold and weapons. I'm doing this fetch quest thing. I did find this thing called the Fin Gleam, which is a mask that is off the coast of some town. I think it's Anvil. And that lets you breathe underwater, which is pretty cool. And there is a quest where you have to go catch 12 fish. And once you catch 12 of these fish, you give the scales to some guy, and he gives you more gold. And it's just gets a little boring after a while. It's just a bunch of fetch quests. And you amass a lot of gold. And then I guess you can buy stuff. So Oblivion, once again, this is an RPG that's completely lost on me. I am an action adventure guy. It's quasi an action RPG. But I think I've just reached the point with Oblivion in the past week where I never quite reached a point where I thought, okay, I can stop here and be okay. I keep turning it on, and then I just keep wandering around Cyrodiil, finding ruins, caves, what have you, dungeon crawling and getting gold. And it just doesn't stop, which I guess is good because this is an open world RPG, and you can do that. You can just walk around and find stuff. You can walk around and talk to NPCs and find little side quests. You don't have to do the main quest. You don't have to light the dragon fires and find the Amulet of Kings. You don't have to do that. You can just walk around and pick flowers if you want. Every time I come across a flower, I pick it. Now, I have to admit that I'm a little upset with the graphics of Oblivion, especially the PS3 version, because when you pick a flower, it's still there. All right. And it's a little confusing. So anyway, once again, this isn't really a deep dive into the game. This is my experience with Oblivion, but I had to put my 2 cents out there because, everyone else is, and why not? So 20 years ago, I'm sure this was great. This is on the heels of Lord of the Rings. It's a fantasy adventure. You can be a mage, you can be an archer, you can be whatever you want. So yeah, 20 years ago, this was probably brilliant. But 20 years later, obviously it got remastered because it didn't age well. But I don't think that if I had a PS5, I don't think, was it $50, 50, $60, whatever it is. I don't think I could justify that. I think it would just be, I think not a lot, but a large portion of the people, of the 4 million people that bought this game, just hit the nostalgia button. Like, oh yeah, I remember that game. Oh my God, it's so much fun. Oh yeah, I remember that quest. Oh, and it just keeps going. Now the exciting news when Bethesda shadow dropped Oblivion for me was not that Oblivion got shadow dropped. It is that Fallout 3, which was also done by Bethesda, is getting the same treatment. So Fallout 3, a game that I greatly enjoyed. I think I greatly enjoyed it because of the genre, this dystopian apocalyptic future. That's kind of more my speed rather than these fantasy adventures. So Fallout 3 is going to get the same treatment. But once again, when that happens, I will have absolutely no way to play that because I do not have a modern console or PC. But I would be very, very tempted to pull the trigger on something just to play an updated version of Fallout 3. So I can recognize how people are excited for Oblivion because if this happened to Fallout 3, my excitement would be a lot greater. But after playing Oblivion now for a week, Skyrim has always been on my radar. It's on the Switch. It's on the PS4. I just haven't pulled the trigger on getting a copy because after playing Oblivion, in my limited experience, I thought, it's probably a game I'm not going to play too much of. And at the end of the day, as my son knows very well, I prefer Breath of the Wild. It's just, Breath of the Wild is just more my speed. Now, I think this is kind of the joke that's been going through my head as I was playing Oblivion, is that, okay, in 2006, Bethesda says, okay, here's this open world RPG. It has huge success. Well, 10 years later, a little bit more than 10 years, 2017, Nintendo had what I call a hold my beer moment and just said, okay, you want to see an open world RPG? Boom. That's how you do an open world RPG. And Breath of the Wild is, once again, I'm flogging a dead horse here. It's just, that game is art. That game is one of the best games ever made. And, holding Breath of the Wild, comparing that game to Oblivion isn't really fair. But I can recognize where Breath of the Wild sort of, maybe grabbed a few things from Oblivion when they were making Breath of the Wild. So I think Breath of the Wild owes something to the release of Oblivion. But Breath of the Wild definitely took the open world fantasy genre to a new level. So Oblivion, I think I kind of reached a point. I might finish this fetch quest of getting all these statues, getting all this gold. But that's it for me. I don't want to, complete the main quest. The Oblivion gates are just annoying. You just get your ass kicked. And at the end of the day, it's another open world fantasy RPG, and that's just not my speed. But I'm glad that I finally sat down, did a real deep dive into this game. I have a better appreciation for it. Once again, it just confirms the notion that this game is not for me. But if you're out there playing the remaster, I'm sure you're enjoying it, and I'm sure you're loving it, and that's great. And I was very, very surprised that Bethesda shadow dropped this. There were rumors, apparently, which somehow eluded me because I consider myself sort of plugged into the video game news. Maybe I saw it and just didn't think about it, but it's here. And now there's all sorts of questions of, where is Elder Scrolls 6? And I think in the presentation of Bethesda, I think they made mention of it. So all the RPG people out there are just having a good time. But one thing I did learn after playing Oblivion for a week was that the strategy guide for Oblivion is not cheap. And we're going to take a look at that on Auction Alerts.
Auction, 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 auction.
Alert. So the strategy guide for Oblivion, strangely enough, I don't know why, are not cheap. I'm just going to read the sold listings on eBay for the strategy guide. And this is just some randos. Oblivion official game guide for PC and Xbox by Prima, $99. Next one, $266. Now the one below that, it says the official strategy guide looks a little different. It's been revised and expanded. That one's only $30. I guess it was missing something. But the one below that, $98, $99, $213, $130. It just keeps going. So the prices are kind of all over the place. But I mean, for a strategy guide to sell for more than $50, there's something going on there. So I went over to the shop Goodwills to see, okay, what's going on over there. And I did find there is a listing right now. And it is the strategy guides for Guild Wars and Oblivion. This is coming from the Goodwill Industries of North Illinois. Right now, with 6 bids, it's up to $24, and this auction ends on the 5th of May. So I'm curious to see what this ends at, and if this is one of those, excuse the joke, Prima copies, because I don't know. I mean, strategy guides are always on my radar when I go to flea markets and yard sales, but this one now is definitely on my radar. If you can pick up a cheap copy and then flip it for at least north of $50. But copies of Oblivion, inexpensive. There was a sold listing for the PC version with a rare coin that sold for $51, and that came out of North Texas. So I guess the rare coin sort of upped the price. But once again, copies of Oblivion, depending on what platform, not super expensive. And once again, the Oblivion remaster is not getting a physical copy, and I'd be very curious to see what happens with that. But just because I'm a physical media guy, if I did want to play Oblivion, I would definitely want a copy in my hand rather than doing some sort of download that's, I think it's like 120 gigs at least. So there you go. The Oblivion strategy guide on Auction Alert, not cheap. So there you go, an epic end to another epic podcast from Two Consoles Too Late. I have been the host, Jackson Keebler. Thank you for listening to all my word vomits on this wonderful 20-year-old RPG that has now been remastered and made anew. My appreciation for it is greater, but at the end of the day, Breath of the Wild all the way. Will Skyrim get remastered? We'll see. And we'll be curious to see what that Fallout 3 remaster looks like. Another re-release coming out, Chrono Trigger. Yes, there's the developer kind of slipped a little bit at a convention that was coming out. So you heard it here first at Two Consoles Too Late. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening once again. Check me out on the interwebs. Just go to Google, type in Two Consoles Too Late, and there I will be. But as always, have a good one. I love you, and goodbye.